Well, that's exciting. Hey, Christina, how's it going?
Hey, I'm literally right on time. I wanted to get on a little early, but life gets in the way. How's it going?
Yeah,
Hey.
totally. I'm excited. I don't know. This is gonna be. I'm gonna use your terms, Christina. It's gonna be fire.
Fire in all caps. Yes.
Yes, fire.
Yes, but I did get in on like the tail end here. So, yeah, that sounds really cool. I don't know if I want to be called a lady. Maybe in another country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Ireland's kind of cool. You could be like, oh, I'm a lady. I'm a lady from Glencoe. I don't know.
When you say it like that, it's kind of attractive. I will take
Right?
it.
You know what? It's like, man, I feel like maybe I'm in a Hallmark movie. Maybe this is it.
That's awesome.
Love it.
Well, hey, I'm just so everybody knows, we're streaming this live on Facebook right now. So for anybody who hasn't been able to get into Zoom, I'm gonna pop the link up on our LinkedIn event. So give me 1 second there.
So, Christina, I see all the avocados.
Yeah.
Tell me what. Explain.
I know. Yeah. When you know, you'll know. Yeah, it's so funny because, like most everyone at the beginning of going virtual for the whole world, it feels like, I found myself trying to work from very unconventional, not cool looking places in my background in my house. And so I was like, I need a virtual background. Like that's a thing. And I found this one and it was the one that I liked the most. And I have used it ever since then. And so now it's just like I've recorded my course with this background. Every meeting I get onto, I have this background, and it's just people know me for the avocados now. So it's kind of like one of those things that I unintentionally made a staple.
I love that.
I don't know.
It's your shtick.
It's my
beauty.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan. Well, let's see what we got here. So why don't I start sharing my screen? I think we've got enough people here that we can kick things off. So give me 1 second.
Oh, Galen and Jonathan are here too. Just like peeking at the attendees because I'm really nosy. Hi.
That's fantastic.
Some of my favorite people.
Well, hey everyone. Say just as to get things started, why don't everybody say hi on the comments and say where you're from.
Paris. That's one of my favorite places. I hope you mean real Paris, not Paris, Texas, because I'd be slightly disappointed.
Side note, have you watched Emily in Paris? Because that is like the cutest series ever.
I was just talking to someone who's actually a Parisian about this the other day, and he was like, I feel like it's really cliche. And I was like, okay, but from an American standpoint, I feel like that's how many of us feel every time we go to Paris. So I don't know if it's cliche or just facts. And but I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been to these places.
I have not seen this thing, and I have not been to Paris.
It might not be your thing, and that's okay. My husband's actually the one who made me watch it, and he watched it a second time. Yeah. And he's also into Hallmark movies, so that's saying a lot.
People.
It's funny. We just had our 13th employee start here, and she is originally from Paris. And I asked her, I was like, this is going to be such a cliche question, but is this like real? I've never been to Paris. And she said, well, it's a very glorified version of Paris.
Right. Well, maybe I will check it out. Hey, we've got a whole bunch of people coming in from Houston. Warren from Houston. Hey, Warren.
Houston.
We got Beth from New Jersey, wishing she should be in Colorado skiing. Don't we all?
Yes.
Oh, and yeah, a whole bunch. Well, hey, thanks everybody for joining. We're 5 minutes in, so now we've got a good group with us today. Why don't we kick things off by looking at some sequences? That sound good?
Perfect. Love
okay,
this.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on. So for those who don't know why you're here, that's so funny. Sorry. For those of you that don't know, sequence practice is all about helping you boost your response rates, book more meetings from outbound sales by watching live reviews of cold emails phone scripts, social messages, and sequences. And so what we're going to do today is we have 2 sequences to go through and about 4 cold emails. Hopefully we'll have time to go through everything, but we have amazing guests with us today. One is Katie Ray. Probably most of you on here know her. She's the one that's been messaging you and talking to you about everything sales for probably how many months now, Katie?
A bit, just
a bit. And everyone is good. You want to hear from Katie, 100%. And then of course there's Christina with the avocado background, who is also the creator of the Outbound Fire framework, where she's proven time and time again across industries, personas, target markets, whatever, to book 10% or more meetings and get as much as what's the highest, Christina? I think you got like 100% open rates on some.
Yeah, I've gotten 100% open rates, but I'm not as concerned with opens if everything else isn't happening. That's where, you know, when you start looking at openings is really when you're not hitting the mark on other things. But listen, we've had some campaigns here book as high as like 25%. So it just depends.
It just depends. I mean, the point is you're booking meetings. That's the most important thing, right?
We're having conversations. Yes, that's so important right now. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so today we're, while you watch us review these sequences, you're going to get a little bit of a hint of what that Outbound Fire is. So without further ado, let's get on to our first sequence. So this one, let me just see my notes here. So this is our first submission today. It comes from a company that it helps medical groups save money and free up staff with text, voice, and email reminders. This is an 8-touch sequence, mixing phone and email touches over 15 days to try and book an intro call. So just for reference, this sequence as a whole gets a 3% reply rate. And they're looking to get closer to 8%, but I'm thinking we might be able to do better than that 8%. What do you think?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, right?
Aim higher, dang it. Aim higher, people.
Aim higher. Let's shoot for the moon. So let's start off by looking at, okay, what is the sequence flow? So again, this is 8 steps. What you're seeing here is literally just kind of 2 steps repeated 4 times. Okay, so it's phone, auto, new email, phone, new email, phone, new email. I'm going to shut up now and I want to hear your thoughts. What do you guys think of this?
So, okay, so I just have a few thoughts on this. One, I like to think I've been very fortunate in not having to sell into medical because it can be very complicated. I have been extremely fortunate to work with some extremely talented sales women at my last company, Alcatel-Lucent, who sold into medical and took over some amazingly large accounts, some of the top hospital chains in Chicago and on the Eastern Seaboard. And she was a badass. And I'm just thinking back to her advice. And I really think one of the biggest things that she shared was multi-threading is money. You have to, you can't just call, you can't just email. You have to have multiple different approaches with different people on different platforms. I am disappointed that there's no LinkedIn in here because once again, multi-threading, different platforms, different people. I think you need to have those extra touches in there. I would add that.
Good point. Good point.
Now I'll be quiet.
Yeah. No, Katie, I'm right with you. And here's the thing, without really understanding exactly who in medical they're approaching. I mean, listen, not all of those people. So I'll play devil's advocate a little bit here. Not all of those people live and breathe on LinkedIn. So I may understand that, but I'm with you. Like, here's the thing. No 2 prospects are equal. What gets one prospect to respond and engage with you may not get the next one to. And so to your point about multi-threading and, you know, this omni-channel approach, super, super, super strong. One question for you, and maybe I'm crazy here, Jeff, but when that says auto new, does that mean it's a completely new email with a new subject line?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. No, I would not. Not. Here's the thing. Think about it from the buyer's perspective and not even buyer, human perspective, right? I get lots of emails and sometimes they get buried. The last thing you want to do is assume that someone is going to look at a new email and remember to go and revisit the first email you sent, which is in a separate thread. I am a big fan and a big proponent of replying in the thread so that when that person does make the time to connect the dots, they've got the whole story there. And, you know, if you're like us, we personalize pretty heavy on the first touch, like really heavy. Imagine that getting lost because now you're sending what we would consider a bump email, whatever that looks like to you. And they don't even have access to what you sent in the beginning. So I think there's a lot there, just off of surface level. That's where my brain's at.
Cool. No, I echo what you guys are talking about. I'd really like to see some different touches. I mean, sure, they're medical. They're used to getting their salespeople literally visit their offices. So I know that this is kind of like a whole new field for the people in that field. So I can totally understand why they're not really mature, I guess, in the channels that they're going after. So I think in my opinion, I would want to look at just exploring different options and finding out where these medical professionals are now when they're not at the office and when everybody's work from home. Well, maybe not them, but I'd be very curious to see.
I would also, and I was just talking about this on LinkedIn, I love writing thank you cards and I like writing handwritten letters. And if I don't have their address, I will download the app Card Snacks and send them custom cards through email or to their cell phone, you name it. I love it. And I think especially whenever we're looking at medical or some of these more challenging industries that are constantly being bombarded, you have to separate yourself somehow. And if you're not able to go there and bring them lunch in person or whatever it may be, because medical practices are constantly bombarded with people bringing food, try and find the right people and send them cards like that. At the very least, I would expect some type of a response saying like, wow, this is different. Thank you. F off. Whatever that may be. It's different. And I would just encourage you to just try it. And like what Christina was saying too, is that, you know, not every single one of your customers, who, even if they're ICPs, whatever, they're all people at the end of the day, and they have different approaches and they want to be talked to differently, and they want to be not like talked to differently, like, oh, they're prospects now, but you know, what resonates with one isn't always going to resonate with the other. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try both approaches, because it could stick with someone different. So I would just add something different, spice it up.
Yeah, I love it. So why don't we take a look? Do you want to take a look at the actual emails now?
Yes.
Let's see what they're saying. This first email, it's after the first call step. So it's day 2, email 1. And again, this is an automated email with a new subject line. Sorry, I don't have that subject line for you. It wasn't in the submission, but here you go.
Okay. So this is the part that's hard for me when I'm doing these kind of teardowns, because part of me wants to just take the reins and completely rewrite it, which is sometimes what ends up happening when I'm working with customers. I'm a big fan, believe it or not, of also not connecting the dots. I know that sounds really, really weird, but we also follow a multi-channel approach between LinkedIn, email, etc. We don't do any cold calling, so I'm not going to pretend like we do. But I think of each step in the cadence as what is the desired outcome from that specific step, right? So let me just put this into perspective. You send an email, okay? You want to elicit some sort of engagement or response, right? Ultimately, we all want booked meetings. That's the end goal, but that's what you want. If I send a LinkedIn connection request as my next step, I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, I sent you an email and I want to connect here and see if this is better, right? That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, hey, Katie, I looked at your profile. I love the work you're doing at Sales Hacker. Would love to connect and stay in touch. Because my goal or the outcome I want from that step is for Katie to accept it, so that later on I have the ability to do LinkedIn voice messages, LinkedIn video messages, etc. I'm very outcome based at the step level. So it's hard for me. I'm not a big fan of using I a lot either. So for me, it's, you know, what's this about them? Okay, cool. You called me, you left a message. You want to introduce yourself. I work with this company and we're all about this. I think I would almost just squash that paragraph entirely and start with something relevant to them if this is the approach you're taking, as a leader at your company.
Right.
I feel like this has been top of mind for some of the people I'm talking to. Is this also top of mind for you? Yourself, yeah. Something very simple like that.
And that's good points, Christina. What do you think about putting a case study in the first touch?
I usually reserve, so I'm not a big fan of sharing content that's, I guess, produced by the company. I'm a bigger fan of sharing curated content from third-party reputable sources that I think the audience or my ICP is probably, they probably respect those sources and think of them as thought leaders. And I usually reserve those for bumps. And honestly, it's usually something educational, not so much like, hey, here's a case study on how people are using us. I think it's somewhat of a salesy approach, and I'm just not a big fan of being sales forward.
Right.
So I don't like long emails. I hate them. I think they're horrible. If I get an email I feel like my boss has to know this too. Colin, I'm sorry if you're watching, but if it's longer than a few paragraphs, I am done.
Yeah.
I'll kind of skim and be like, okay, I get the gist. On to the next thing. But personally for me, I'm not a fan of it. Yeah, Christina. Yeah, just short. Keep them short and sweet. I also think when it comes to case studies, I have seen more success not putting them in sequences. However, I see marketing, and this isn't an us versus them, but I think oftentimes there's like a nurture sequence, and I would put the case studies in there. And hey, they've not responded. It's been 30 emails that I've sent on to the next one, and pop them in a nurture sequence and then come back to them 2 or 3 months later, and sending these case studies and customer experiences, little short quip videos from customers. But it's a lot. Like, you're asking a lot. Like, if you think about it, you're asking them to, one, read this 4 or 5 paragraph email. You're also asking them to learn. Then you're also asking them to click on the case study. And then you're also asking for a call. That's 4 call to actions. Too much.
Right.
Too much.
It's a lot for somebody you've just met, right?
Yeah. I feel like it's a lot. Buy me a drink. I don't know. Do something better than that.
Maybe they need one of your thank you cards first, right?
Exactly.
At least you get something.
Write a letter.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I'm just gonna take a quick break to address a couple of questions that we got from the audience. So Anna actually says that this is her team sequence. So thank you, Anna, and your team for submitting this to Sequence Practice. She says, any recommendations on when or how many emails to thread?
Yeah, I answered this in the chat. I'm sorry. I'm used to doing that because so just for context, I own marketing and sales development here. So yeah. I'm agreeing with Katie when she says there's certain things that need to come from a nurturing stream versus like your outbound motion. But my rule of thumb, and really the data shows, anything beyond a 4th email in like an actual cluster or sequence does not move the needle. So I usually tell people 3 emails minimum, 4 maximum. And honestly, at least thread the first 3 and have a separate 4th email if you want to. I actually thread all 4. So that's just me.
Right. And you're seeing this from the data, right, Christina? Like you're not just doing this because you feel like that'll work. Like you've seen the data work.
Correct. Yes, I've seen the data work. And 3 emails really is a magical number. Again, you're going to re-engage at some point, right? And hopefully you're using something that's giving you the right kind of data and insight to re-engage later. And to, some of the points we were talking about earlier about no prospects being exactly the same or needing the same kind of communication. The way that we re-engage on a quarterly basis, we look back at all the people who opened and didn't reply to our, what I would call our A framework, the outbound fire framework that we deploy here. And we run a completely different type of outreach sequence to them. Completely different, direct, a little bit more salesy, because what happens is you either get people to move in or move out, and some people respond better to that kind of communication. So yeah, 3 to 4 emails max is what my suggestion is in an initial kind of sequence or cadence.
Perfect, thank you. And so just for clarification, some of our audience was asking, what do you mean by threading? So that's when you don't have a new email, but you reply to the previous email. So you'll see like the previous email and the whatever else. So instead of having a brand new email with a new subject line. So great question, Ronit, thank you. And one more question before we move on. How many words per paragraph or email do you like to keep at? So do you have a word limit?
As short as you can, and then read it again and see what you can cut out again and again until it's just very direct. That's why I said, like, Katie, you can chime in here, but like that first paragraph can go, right? There you go. There's one paragraph down. I'd probably try to cut it down to maybe 3-4 sentences if you can. And feel free to break those up too, so that they're individual points, if that makes you feel better about the flow and like the aesthetic. But yeah, as short and sweet as you can be, getting the point across.
Yeah, you know, I've been doing a lot of tests with the sales audience, sales and marketers, right? And yeah, anything more than a three sentence email tends to just not perform. And at the very least, it'll perform maybe 2/3 of the 4, you know, the 3 sentence email. So I'm 100% with you both on that. I don't really have a specific number. It's just more of like, what is the least amount of words you can use to get your point across. And so what I like to do is think about Twitter, is how Twitter became so popular, is that they took everything that was going on in the web and they said, you're only given 140 characters to make your point. And then it taught everybody how to be little mini marketers, right? So if you can do that, if you're good at Twitter and you're good at like LinkedIn posts and stuff that aren't this long, then you should be able to be good at email marketing as well. So yeah, thanks for that, Paul. So to end this one, this sequence, let's take 3 takeaways. So I'm going to take one from each of us. So Katie, what is one thing you would do to change, to improve this sequence?
I would take, okay, it would be a tie between short and sweet or take out the case study. It's a tie.
So would you say no selling or no case study? So no link.
Study.
Okay.
No literature.
So Christina, what about you?
Honestly, this is something that I will probably say about all of the feedback, is make it about them. Quit saying I so much. Don't feel like you need to sell. If you've got the right message there and it gets them kind of, they're going to do their own research and they'll connect the dots themselves. Like, you don't need to spell that out for them in an email. Yeah,
no, for sure. And so if I'm going to add one thing, I'm kind of torn between this. One's a tactical and one's a strategic, but I would say research as like, just understand your customer and do something it doesn't even need to be personalized per se. It just has to be relevant. And I just feel like you just need to do your research. I don't know, and make that show up. So. Okay, perfect. Now we have a series of 4 sales emails. Hopefully we can get through them. We still have a bit of time left. So let's get started with this one. So this is a solutions associate at a leading video marketing platform. So they actually use video for sales. Yeah, it's just a single email, manual send on the day of, with the subject line, your first name, your LinkedIn post about reference company.
This follows a very somewhat similar trajectory of what we use for a first touch. So they've got the research part down. That's good. I think Katie's going to say this, so I won't steal her thunder, but it's long, really, really long. And I think what happens here, and a lot of people have this problem when using this type of format, is there's a need to feel like, okay, I'm calling out something I researched. Great. Now I need to tell you why I'm reaching out to you, so there's some sort of relevancy here. It's not just me talking about how great your post was. And then I've got to go into my spiel and my prompt. I think the way that I've usually positioned this, and it's worked really well for us, and I'm going to go back to the fact that, you know, there is a way to turn outbound leads into inbound leads, is if I was to rework this, and I probably would rework it a little bit more than this, keep the subject line the same, except I would just say your LinkedIn post. Who cares about the company?
Yep.
And I would, you know, shorten the first sentence. So I would say something like, hey, saw you posted about XYZ. Really love that. Really loved this piece. It was right on the money. I couldn't agree more. And then I would say something like, hey, with that said, I cut out all the spiel. With that said, I'm a big fan of your team and I'd love to just get on a quick call. And yes, I do tell people to prompt for the call and be transparent. I'd love 10 to 15 minutes of your time to learn about you, your team, and your priorities. And I'd love to earn the right to talk through how my company, whatever your company name is, might fit in. That's it. You're not telling why. You're not saying what you do. You're not talking about a problem, a solution, nothing. But what that's going to do is, it's going to start by beefing them up, right? You're playing that card. And then what's going to happen is they're going to do their own research. They're going to click on this in your signature block on your website, and I have data to show this. They'll then pick up, okay, this is what they do. All right. And then when they respond back to you, it's with that context. So you're going to get a much more insightful no, if you do get a no, on when to re-engage potentially, or you're going to get a yes. And so I like this approach. I just think it needs to be cleaned up a bit and shortened and take out all the selling stuff.
Yeah, that goes up against conventional wisdom, Christina. That's everywhere you see people say like, we help blah, blah, blah do X with Y. That's wrong, right?
Listen, I'm not going to say that it's wrong. There is no silver bullet. So I'm never going to say that approach is wrong unless you're just being a douche. I mean, but I mean, if you take a thoughtful approach, it's really hard to get an unsub or an F off.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You may get someone who says, hey, this isn't the right time, or hey, we just purchased XYZ, or hey, love the approach, but hey, we're not in the market. That's fine. Those are still open doors. You don't have to do any kind of cleanup process to then re-engage later, right? You've got open doors still. But yes, I'm unconventional. But again, the data shows that if you have the right message, people will respond to you with that lens. You're putting the onus to research on them.
Right on. Katie, what do you say?
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Christina.
Sorry, Katie.
No, I love everything you're saying. First off, I just want to encourage those of you that are in your first role as a seller or as an SDR, because we all know, we are all trained to say, hey, so-and-so, my name is Katie Ray. I work at here, and this is what I do. We're all trained to do that. So first off, it is not your fault that you've been trained poorly. Secondly,
calling them out.
But honestly, it's because there's this idea, and Jeff and I were actually just talking about this earlier this week too, is that there's this idea that statistically speaking, if we make 100 calls and 100 emails, then at least some of it should stick, right? Like 2 to 5 of them should stick. There should be something that comes from it. So if we do all of this, then why change it, right? Well, we should change it because it's not as effective anymore, and it's not bringing value. And if you're doing a multi-threaded approach, you can't send the same email to the same people. You know, they're all going to talk to each other. They're all going to laugh. They're all going to know that you're sending the same thing. If it was me, and like I said, everyone has a different approach. Your customers are all going to react differently to everything that you send. Some may love it, some may hate it. You know, you just roll with it. I think this is incredibly long. I would not do this. I would not do this. But I would actually take this whole first paragraph and send them it on LinkedIn and say, hey, we're connected. I saw this LinkedIn post. This is so cool. I love how you're so focused on transparency and philanthropy. Ask them, what else are you guys doing to help other people? What else, ask them, have a conversation. since you're having, like you said, in paragraph 2, what if you could have full transparency of your video's individual viewer analytics? Okay, I kind of get what you're doing here with the transparency theme in the first paragraph, but it's not the same transparency theme in the second. You're taking a word out of context and trying to utilize it someplace else where it may not belong. But I also think I'm not against the question in the second paragraph. However, I just realized it's the whole paragraph. So, cut that down a little bit, make it a little shorter.
You're the words assassin, Katie. You're just
I didn't just realize.
Chop. I love it.
Okay, well, this is why, and honestly, it's like my own little personal experience in growing up. I hated when people would correct things in red pen, so I'm picturing doing it in like purple. So it's not as bad, but I think honestly, the heart behind all of it is if you're really wanting to help them get a better idea of their analytics, really understand how to leverage their HubSpot marketing automation and really make their life easier, just say that. Get through all this crap, make the first paragraph only in LinkedIn, message them, say this is great, build that relationship, and maybe even take it a step further and say, hey, it sounds like you guys are really dealing with this. Can I get 15 minutes on your calendar? Can I buy you a virtual cup of coffee? Talk to your marketing team. They have money. And just ask. That's what I would do, but I don't keep track of numbers like Christina. So maybe she can give thumbs up or thumbs down.
Listen, again, there's no silver bullet. I think, Katie, you've got to be creative. I mean, I think there's 2 recurring themes I'm seeing here: creativity and shorten that crap. Like that's just, I mean, be shorter than you think you are. Like, so no, I'm with you, Katie. There's no wrong or right answer here.
I'm also hearing that you both have said on numerous occasions to be direct, like being direct and transparent. Be clear with what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm finding that with this email, because of the length and because of the format, I'm not understanding quickly. I can't understand quickly what this person wants from me. So I'm seeing like even the last line, either way, keep the good content, ... Like it's kind of burying the CTA. And so it's making it so that I don't really know what this person wants from me. Right. And so it makes it difficult. If it's shorter, the CTA is clear and it's direct, then it's so much easier for them to skim it and understand, okay, this is what Christina wants from me. I'm going to actually read this message and do something about it. Right.
I also think too, I didn't even realize that last sentence either way. It reminded me of a call I was on during Girls Club with Lauren Bailey. I know many of us are big fans of her. She asked about, does anyone have anything good to share? And I had something to share, but it wasn't, in my mind, I didn't think it was as cool as what other people. I didn't get a promotion. I didn't get this, but it was a big deal in my life. And so I wanted to share. And I started it off with, this really isn't that big of a deal, but it was kind of important to me. And she's like, stop it immediately, because as soon as you say that, you're giving people permission to not take what you have to say as something important. So whenever you say, either way, doesn't matter if you call me or not, think you do some cool stuff, it's fine, this isn't important. You're losing all sense of urgency that you've completely built up and giving them permission to completely blow you off. So I would think about that type of language too. Just a different perspective.
Right on. Thanks, Katie. Well, we have a question from the audience, another question. So it's for the last CTA asking for a meeting. Do you recommend simply asking, are you available for a call this week, or being specific, are you free for 15 minutes this Friday at 10 a.m.?
Yeah, I mix both of those. So normally what we say is, do you have 10 to 15 minutes? Actually, let me take that back a step. It's kind of 2 sentences here. The first one is, would love to get 10 to 15 minutes of your time to understand your company, your priorities, blah, blah, blah. Do you have time this week or next? I mean, it depends on what time of the week you're sending it to. Like if I'm sending outreach today, I'm still going to say this week. If I'm sending outreach tomorrow, I'm usually going to say this week or next week. That's usually what I lead with, but I do ask for 10 to 15 minutes. I just don't give a specific day and time.
Good. Well, thank you. Okay, so let's move on to the next. We'll do one more email and then we're going to get into our last sequence. So this one's interesting. So this is actually for a residential building supplies company. They provide, actually, I believe it's steam showers for new construction. So they're going after purchasing managers at residential communities. So take a look and let us know what you think.
It's so long.
Recurring theme. Yes.
I just need a little stamp. Too long.
Or gavel. A gavel.
Yes.
There we go. Too long. The order is
We'll get an animation for future events.
Yes, please do.
Too long.
There are some good components here. You know, like I would definitely take out the first sentence. That's unnecessary fluff, you know. No
I
reason.
am victim. Not victim. I am all my emails.
The perpetrator.
Yeah. I hope you're doing well. I put that on all of them. I'm so bad. I know I shouldn't do it, but it's like, but I have to, but I shouldn't.
I used to. I did. I usually was the one. In fact, my go-to was happy whatever day of the week it was, like happy Monday, happy Tuesday, happy Wednesday, whatever.
Yeah.
I do like the components here though. Like I almost think you could just keep like nix the first sentence, keep the first sentence in the second paragraph there, nix everything else. Definitely don't hyperlink to more than one thing in an email at a time. I think 3 hyperlinks is overkill. And plus you've got the image of the before and after. So I almost think that does the work. Who cares about the video right now? Who cares about the health benefits of steam bathing? Maybe that's a PS at the end of the email. Or you reserve those things for bumps and additional education, or in Katie's eyes, marketing, nurturing emails. But yeah, I would definitely maybe even just condense this down. I can almost condense this down to 3 sentences with the images. You know, first sentence from that second paragraph, first sentence from the next paragraph, the before and after, and then I don't like asking, are you the appropriate person to contact? It's like one of those things where it's like, you don't know who you're trying to reach. Like, not for nothing. It's a tactic that I know what they're trying to do is confirm that, yes, this is the right person and they have the authority. But like, I don't think you need to do that. And then would you find value in connecting with me? I don't know. I don't know if I'd find value in connecting with you. So yeah, I think humbly, okay, I get that. Yeah, I'd condense this down to like 3 sentences. And yeah, the CTA probably just needs to be a little bit more direct and cut out those 2 questions.
You know, it's interesting, Christina, with what you teach through Outbound Fire, you're basically trying to get people to research on their own, right? So with this email, would you find value in connecting with me? I don't even know how to answer that until I've looked at your website, watched some videos, you know, like learned about you. And then, yeah, maybe I would after that, right? Yeah.
And it also just leads me to believe, like, maybe it's because I'm thinking of it from like a sales perspective, but that tactic only really works. You know, if you're going to just nix not talking about a product, a service, a problem, or solution, which is what I normally tell people to do, it also puts the it banks on the fact that you have your prospecting down, right? You know who your ICP is, you're reaching out to the right people, and you have a very clear message on your website when they go and do their own research, because that's what will happen. So there's a couple of things that have to be in play there. But in this case, I don't think, you know, I think cutting out the fluff a little bit and all of the pieces I was just talking about, I think it could still work if the ICP is right. I don't know. I just don't like the last 2 sentences at all, or the last 2 questions.
Okay.
So I think you could turn this email into 4 emails. I think there's just so much great information that if it was separated out, then you could have 4 emails from it. Like you were saying, Christina, you don't need to have all the videos. Let's do one video one. Let's do one picture one, like the before and after. Let's do that on another. Like pick what's the most important. And like you were saying earlier, keep it threaded throughout so that people can reference it. Because if you spread it all out, the likelihood of at least one of those items being relevant for them, they're able to say, oh yeah, this one thing is relevant to me. Maybe I should talk to this person. I also agree. Don't ask, are you the appropriate person? Because you don't know, like you don't look like you know what you're doing. And that's kind of a rookie move. I feel like we've all done it. Like we've all done it.
Yeah.
I still, struggle with it sometimes, but I try to keep those questions for whenever I'm calling, and I try and make it more like, hey, so, I understand so-and-so usually handles that. Is he still the right person? Or, is there another department that also handles this? And then you can kind of get into a multi-threaded approach. Prefer that for a conversation. Like, what are you supposed to say? If so, would you find value in connecting with me? Are you supposed to say like, no, I don't find value in you? Like, what are you supposed to say to that? So I probably wouldn't do that. I would do a date and time and say, look, I think it makes sense for us to chat for at least 5 minutes. If it doesn't work, I'll send you this, I'll send you a thank you card. I'll send you a gift card and we can go our separate ways. But like, it's not bad, but
it's not bad. It could be better, right?
Yeah, everything we do could always be better in life. So
yeah. And that's why we're here. So just for your reference, just in case everybody wants to see, these are the pictures.
Oh.
Which looks cool. Doesn't that look like a cool shower? I don't know what the left thing is, but I think the shower looks cool.
So the left thing is actually what's behind the shower.
Oh,
So this
it's
is the installation
product itself.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
so it's kind of showing like the guts, the X-ray or whatever. So I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a cool little email. It gets 25% response rate, which is good in most people's books. But definitely if we do some of the tips that you two recommended, I think that this would be, who knows how high this could get. But so I'm going to skip through now to 3 takeaways. So for these 2 emails, what do you two think are, what I'll start with Christina this time. What's one thing you think that could improve the emails that you saw?
Man, there's so many things. I think for me, I mean, if I had to pick one thing, don't feel the need to cram everything into that one email, right? That's the one that's standing out the most for me. And like Katie said, that right there is like an entire sequence worth of, stuff that you could elaborate on. The 25% reply rate, I mean, obviously I'd be curious to dig into that more, like what are the positive replies, the negative replies, are some of those unsubs, because, some systems count it that way. But if you are truly getting 25% reply rate, no's, yeses, mixture, then, clearly it leads me to believe there's not a prospecting issue or a top of funnel issue there. So I think that if you just clean that up a little bit and condense it and tell that story, like you said here, in multiple touches, it might get you a better traction and make it more digestible for that prospect.
Perfect. Thanks, Christina. And Katie, what do you think? Besides be brief, because we already got, what's another one?
Maybe like a more specific call to action.
Okay. So be specific. Okay, sweet. I'm going to actually steal one from Christina. One thing that you said that really stuck in my mind is be creative with your messaging. I really like that, because I know it's such a hard thing to really give practical knowledge around, but being creative and finding creative ways to say things, it just catches people's attention. It interrupts the patterns. It makes people actually think when they read your email and not just go, oh, this is another I help X with Y, right? So I really like that one. So excellent. Now I tell you a fun little announcement for those that are still on is so Christina and I are actually partnering together to launch that you yourself get your hands on the FIRE framework. So the Outbound FIRE framework by buying the sequence template on the RevUp sequence marketplace. So if you go to that link there, revup90.com/fire, in all caps, it has to be in all caps, then you'll be able to get your hands on that template. And right now it's going for $200 off. So get it fast. And Christina, do you want to tell them about the other part that's really exciting?
Ooh, are we talking about the course?
We're talking about the bundle. Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's two really exciting things, because listen, I am a very giving person. It was very hard for me to make this switch to like, hey, I got something that people might, want to invest in. But we had some really great success from people applying this across different, markets and ICPs, SMBs, all the way up to enterprise. So it definitely does work. Not only will I be very willing to talk you through pre and post, just to kind of help you if you have questions as you're kind of applying this template to your org and your process, but I have an Outbound FIRE framework course on Teachable that's normally about $200. And I'm going to give it to everybody who purchases this for $50, period.
Wow.
Yeah. So you get that. It's just like a supplemental. You get all the videos, you get all the updates, all the iterations as I continue to test and iterate over time. So yeah, we're all in this together. So boom.
That's so exciting, Christina. Thank you for offering that and sharing your amazing work with everybody else, or what you call the secret sauce. And just so you know, you can buy both of those things at RevUp90 at this URL. And so they're bundled. As soon as you put both in your cart, you get those discounts. So enjoy. And so it looks like we have one more sequence. We still have, most people are on the call still. So we can either end now and end on top with FIRE, or we can do the one more sequence. So just raise of hands, who wants to go another 5-10 minutes?
I'm always down. Like,
I think all the hands are raised.
Oh, all the hands are raised. This is a no-brainer. Okay, we want this content, folks. Right on. So with that said, let's step right into the third sequence. Now, this one is interesting because I actually went through this before this event. And I found that this was a very good sequence, and I felt like so this is for a video, like a sales video tool. I really did feel like this was a sequence to kind of show people through the sales process how to use the tool in a great way. So I think both of you will really enjoy this. I think the people listening in will love it. So take a look at this sequence, 18 touch sequence over the course of 60 days. So take a look real quick.
60 days. Ooh, have we seen this one?
What's that?
Have we seen this one before?
I think you saw it, Katie. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
18 steps over 60 days. Okay, so that's pretty, that's pretty spread out. It's not like they're doing boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. And the last two touches are 17 days apart. So the majority of it is in 6 weeks. And then there's like a lull and then a 2-week until the end.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So are any of these, like when it says step 1, step 2, like, is it step 1, day 1, step 2, day 4? Like, do we know the spacing? Okay.
Yeah. So they're at the beginning, they're spaced pretty close, and then they start to taper and they get closer again. So they're kind of changing the frequencies throughout.
Okay.
And do you know what ghost means?
Yeah. So Christina, do you know what that means?
Yeah, not leaving a voice message.
Yeah, exactly. You're ghosting. I'm out.
So much anxiety from, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I love long sequences like this. I love them. I do. I have had a lot of success from extremely long sequences. However, those were enterprise deals where my sales cycles are 8 to 12 months anyways.
Right.
So it makes sense. I'm not trying to get them real quick, right? I'm trying to have a longer, more relationship built process. So I don't mind that. But if this is like SMB mid-market, I would be slightly cautious.
I would agree with Katie there. I think like we're working on mid-market right now. And we have 7 to 9 touches over like a 14 to 16 day period. So it's a little bit more condensed as like an initial outreach. This is kind of, I think that context would be super helpful. Like if this was enterprise, then boom, yeah, totally get it. In fact, you might even be able to go longer, like Katie said. But if it's something where they're selling and there's shorter sales cycles, like I would be also evaluating where you're getting the most return per step, and then deciding, are there things that aren't giving return that I could potentially move the ones up in the step process to get a return quicker? Those are the kind of things that, with my marketing hat on, I'm constantly looking at that data. If we have 7 steps and only 4 of them are actually performing, and I can't really justify why filler steps are helping to make those steps perform better, then you got to start thinking in terms of, okay, is it still the right journey? And we want to keep it that way because there's sometimes that case. Or do I want to cut out, step 4 email video and move up that step 5? I mean, just kind of throwing something out there. That could definitely be something I would be evaluating if you have the right data.
You know what I'd be really curious about, Christina, and I'd love to learn from you if you have ideas or experiences or perspective around this. I don't know why, but I've always been a really big fan of calling and leaving a voicemail and then referencing that with my email and then kind of like setting the stage with that. We see here he or she is focused on LinkedIn connecting, then the next day sending a message and then calling an email. What do you think about that? And do you think that, or do you see higher responses or different rates whenever you do it flip-flopped?
Yeah, good question. So we kind of do it flip-flopped between email as kind of the focal point. There's this element of eating your own dog food, right? And so I like the fact that this person is doing video, right?
What is eating your own dog food? What is this?
You've never heard that saying, Katie? It's like,
I've never heard that.
Katie, you have 3 dogs at your house.
I don't eat
don't eat dog food, please. Eating your own dog food is like you're drinking your own Kool-Aid, right? Same kind of philosophy. So like, for example, the platform that I sell is an outreach platform, right? I use it for selling. So it's kind of, I'm using my own dog food to sell an efficient process that I know also works for us. So, I see that this person's doing that too by using video pretty frequently throughout the process. And so I like that piece. I forget what you asked me because you just got me off track on dog food.
You want to send call and email before social connections, or?
So I am going to say this with extreme confidence. My SDR team and me, we do 0 cold calling.
Interesting.
We're only email and LinkedIn, and our conversions come from email and LinkedIn. That's why we're at 10% plus, booking rates. But yeah, for those that do, now I'm not going to say cold calling is dead because I really do think that, again, all channels are viable and not off limits. We just haven't gone that route. We haven't needed to. But I think when I've been talking to people, I like the triple, I think is what Justin Michael calls it, where you do phone call, LinkedIn, and even an email all like in the same day. And I still wouldn't reference them though. That's just me. I wouldn't reference them. Maybe in a voice message you reference like, hey, I'm just going to shoot you a note just to get them to open and not really reference that. But I'm not a calling expert. So
interesting. Yeah. I actually just learned about the triple today. I didn't realize it was called that. So
triple touch.
The triple.
I call it the triple touch, but
the TT. But I think somebody had asked like what type of products to help with video messaging. I'm a huge fan of BombBomb and Vidyard. So They do a good job and it's integrated well. I know Jeff has his own feelings about what video message is and what products he likes. So if you'd like to share that.
Well, you know what? I've been testing out Drift. I've been really enjoying it. I've sent Katie some stupid gifts recently just to try it out. I like it. Vidyard's really cool. I have a lot of people I know use Vidyard and work at Vidyard. I mean, they're obviously a really cool platform. Those are kind of the two I'm most familiar with, and I'm just getting to know BombBomb myself. So either way, like I really think I'm starting to see a lot that the effective sequences are using video these days and really leveraging that, you know, LinkedIn video connection to really rock their prospecting. So I think the best thing you can do is get a good tool that does what you need to do, and then just use it properly, in all honesty. And with that said, that's a perfect way to segue into how this person's using it. So she's starting with a video. This is a video that she sends on the day 3. So after somebody's connected, once they have, she'll send a video through LinkedIn actually thanking them for connecting. So it's a personalized 20-second video, just a quick note. And yeah, I'm not playing it. This is just a picture, a screenshot, but you get the idea.
I love these videos. I have recently been receiving them. Zoe at BombBomb sent me one and I thought it was the coolest thing in the whole entire world. And I was like, oh my gosh, I should start doing this. And I remember trying it at my last company, and you really need to know your customers. I learned sometimes state and local government employees don't always appreciate this much excitement. It was not well received for me, for those customers. However, selling to education, they love this stuff and it's fun and it's cool and it's different. Selling to education in Nebraska, not as much. So really understanding who your customers are, who you're talking to, I think is really going to depend on the level of success in sending stuff like this. But I'm always a really big fan, especially if you make it personalized and you put their name and you put what they do or something fun in there. I'm a big fan of that.
Nice.
I'm gonna echo that.
Okay, I'll be like, oh no.
Time I'm echoing that. Yeah, no, I really like it. I'd be curious what she's saying in it, right? Just like anybody, but I think it comes across. There's a human. We're craving human interaction right now. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm at that point where like I want to see people. Like, I want to see people in person, and this is the closest I can get. So this brings that human nature into it, the human to human versus B2B.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, you can see this huge movement in outbound sales. It's not about, hey, here's my pitch. Do you want to talk to me? It's, hey, can we connect? Can we actually, do we agree on the same things? Do we align around the specific challenges and pain points that my company addresses? And then once we actually have that, yes, we connect, we align, then getting the chance to be invited to your pitch, right? It's a very different thing than pitching unsolicited versus being invited to pitch because somebody actually wants to hear what you have to say. And it's such a much more powerful thing. And the way that you do that is to get people to know who you are. That's why we do webinars like this. We teach people, we introduce them to who we are as people. And if they like who we are, people love Katie, people love Christina, some people like me, I don't know. And so video is a really powerful tool to get people to know who you are before you actually get the chance to make your pitch.
Love it.
P.S. I put the link in the chat so everybody can go directly to that link and go right to the course in case you're looking for it.
That is so cool you guys are doing that. I think that's just, it's fire.
It is.
Listen, Katie, I'm just surprised this is the first time we're actually getting on something together.
Oh my gosh. I also thought that. And I was just like, holy shit, she's so cool. So I'm a little bit of a fangirl. So forgive me. But
I'm a fangirl of you too. So we'll connect later. Sorry, Jeff, we're throwing off the flow and it's already, 3:00 Eastern. And I'm like, what? How did that time fly?
Yeah, it is. Time flies, actually. So I think we have, we're at time. So I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to shoot for all the people that are asking questions about buying the course and the template. There, you will get an email first thing tomorrow morning with the recording for today's call and the link to the course and the promo code to get that deal that Christina mentioned. So if you have some patience with me there, that you'll get that tomorrow. But if not, just take a look in the chat. You've got the link and the promo code. And we've tested things before this call. They were working. If they're not, ping me directly. You've got my LinkedIn. In fact, I'll even throw that up there. But just look for Jeff Swan 18 on LinkedIn, and I'll be able to help you out. All right. So Katie, Christina, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. And thank you so much for joining me today on sequence practice number 6. And to everybody who joined at home, thanks for participating in the discussion and making this awesome for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. And thanks, Christina. This was so much fun. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, definitely. Same here. Bye, guys.
Bye.